Hi, everybody. Welcome. If you guys don't know us yet, my name is Alexis Weigand, and I'm here with my partner, Emily Baker. And I'm going to kick off with a couple quick introductions on us, just so you guys know who is leading the classroom today. All right, so I lead a mega team here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm also a MAPS coach. So Emily and I together, we wrote and facilitate the Mega Listing Agent, where we teach you guys how to go from either taking your first listings or taking over 100 listings a year. My team, we help about 200 families a year for about 90 million in volume. And I've been in real estate for almost 15 years. So I also have 3 littles. So if anyone's like me and you've got the littles at home, I've got 6th grade, 4th grade, and then K-prep. So working mom, and our together, Emily and I's kind of mojo is anything around scripts and sellers. So welcome to our seller shift shock today. Emily, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Emily Baker. I am out of Ozark, Missouri. I am a MAPS executive coach. I co-lead the Mega Listing Agent with Alexis. I lead Role Play Rumble, which is a scripting program. And my history is I've been in real estate for about 10 years now. I have built and led a team to take over 30 listings consecutively every single month, primarily through prospecting. And so listings, scripts, sellers, it's our jam. I've also got a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old. And so I'm also a busy mom. I'm excited to dive into this with you. So today, really our agenda is, Giselle, if we'll go to the next slide, we're going to talk about market conditions, knowing your numbers, what's important to know as listing agents right now, knowing your math, how to restructure your calendar for the shifting market, preparing to win in your listing appointments, and how to price it right. There's a lot of conversations right now on how to price. What are you looking at? How do we price to the market that we're in, not the market that we've been in? And then we're going to open it up for some Q&A.
Sweet. All right, so before we get started, I want to know where everyone's from. So put it in the chat channel. What is your city and state? This is always fun because I love to see how many Texas peeps we have on. Okay. Not as many as I thought. Love it. All right. And then I also want to just get a quick gauge. How many listings did you close in 2022? So if you have a couple pendings left that are going to close, include those. All right. So, okay. Wow. We got 45, 15, 20, 56, 50, 65, 54, 94. Leslie Brown, way to go. 60, 50, 62, 39. All right. So the majority of the class, I think, are seasoned listing agents, Emily. So it always helps us gauge and know who our audience is and who we're talking to. All right. So market conditions. We all know, guys, and I'm going to simplify this for you a little bit. A seller's market think about this. A balanced market is about 6 months of inventory. You'll hear Gary say it's 5 to 7. And then you'll also hear him say, listen, go ahead and simplify it for the clients. It's 6 months. So write this down. A balanced market is 6 months of inventory. Anything less than 6 months of inventory puts us in a seller's market, right? Because we've got not enough supply and we have higher demand. So the seller can then have the more favorable terms and negotiations, to usually price. And then if you have too much supply and not enough demand, that means we have inventory over 6 months of supply. And when we say that, simplify this for your clients because they don't always understand our language around this. But it means if no new listings were to hit the market, it would take 6 months for all the listings to sell. Okay, so for right now, like in San Antonio, we're at 3.4 months of inventory, and we've been there for 5 consecutive weeks. So by definition, what is San Antonio in? Put it in the chat channel. Seller's market or a buyer's market? knowing that we're at 3.4 months of inventory. Yep. We're still in a seller's market. That's right. So that's the most important metric you can know for any conversation in real estate. So if you don't know your month supply for your city yet, Google it or sign up for our course. Either one, we'll teach you how to do it and several other conversions, but know your number, and that's going to help you tremendously. All right, next slide. All right, so know your numbers. Number one, it's your active inventory. When we say that, I'm talking about how much active inventory you have. And I'm going to just pull up a copy of San Antonio so I can share with you, because this is something that whether it's our ISA department, my listing department, our buyer agents, this is something that we literally have at our fingertips, and I'd like for y'all to have it as well. So our active inventory, the number of total listings on the market right now, again, I'm just going to talk about San Antonio because those are the numbers I know. We are at 10,200. Number of new listings. We look at that over the last week. Most of your MLSs will give this to you. So that's 631 new listings every single week coming on the market. New pendings in the last 7 days, 587. Number of average showings per listing. We actually get that from showing time. Number of price changes, number of days on market, and then number of expired cancels. We look at all of that. The really healthy thing about this is when you have all of this tracked, we have a virtual assistant with Cyberbacker who we created it. We give it to you in our course, but if you're not inputting these numbers yourself, have someone do it for you. And what's so helpful is most of us are visual learners. Most of our clients are. So when we are in front of them, or you can take a screenshot, send it to them, and they see the pattern, it does the heavy lifting for us in the conversation. So if I were to dial back, if you guys were one of my sellers, right, and you're talking about, well, my neighbor sold their house 6 months ago and they got, 900,000. Well, I can easily dial back to 6 months ago and I'll say, that's amazing. We were in a really different market. We literally had half the inventory in the entire area that we have right now. And I know this, and I can show this to them and show them the pattern of every single week. We got more inventory and more inventory and more inventory, right? So we could have possibly gotten, let's say they were apples to apples houses, 900 had we been sitting with you 7 or 8 months ago, getting you ready to go on the market, right? And now, because our job as a listing agent is to educate, to empower them to make really educated decisions for them and their family. So those are the numbers. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions around it? Can I show how my virtual displays the information? I don't know that I have the ability to share my screen. It's disabled.
It's in a Google spreadsheet. That's how they do it. So it's week over week. So it just, on the left-hand side, it has the week number. So it'll say, 1 through 1-8, right? And it's week number. And then it literally on the top, it'll say number of active inventory, number of new listings, number of new pendings, and they're inputting it week over week. And every week they update it. So then you have all of that data. The other thing is, for those of you, as we are, embracing a prospecting-based market, which I'm super excited about. So for those of you who love prospecting, or you're excited, or you're maybe interested in looking at prospecting, you can use these numbers when you're prospecting. So the pace of the market right now, what do sellers think it's a good time to sell, or that it's not a good time to sell? What are you guys hearing on your calls? Not a good time. And you can use, so if someone were to say, I'm not really sure where the market's at. I've heard some things, or I've seen some stuff on the news. We're not really sure if it's the best time for us. So we're going to wait, right? You've had people that are telling you that if you're prospecting right now. And so you can use these numbers and go, hey, well, I'm curious, did you know that just last week, 631 properties went under contract? And then they can go, oh, well, no, yeah, well, tell me more about what you've heard. So you can use these numbers even on your prospecting such that it can hook them to meet with you. And then you can visually show, because we connect on the phone, we convert in person.
Yeah. And before we move on, I want to give you another one that I've always used, but right now it's a really low number. So when we're at a listing appointment and we're getting, asked after you've gone through your value proposition to cut commissions, and we're handling those objections, a thing that I keep coming back to is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're hiring the agent that you're hiring. It's the person that's not going to just list your house, right? It's the 3 Ps. Put a sign in the yard, put it in MLS, and sit back and pray we get an offer. Your job is to hire the agent that's going to get you into the 6% of the market that's actually selling, not the 94% that's sitting on the market week after week and month after month. And that's a really healthy number as well, because when we say these numbers, like, honestly, they're big numbers. San Antonio is a large area. So if I tell you, or if I tell a seller that we have 587 pendings in the last week, like, there's no perspective there. That doesn't do much for them. But if I can show them in the column right next to it, I see, hey, if we'd been sitting together 6 months ago, 22% of the market was going under contract week over week. And they will see the pattern, and slowly it's ticked down to where now only 6% of the market's going under contract. And I would say that, like, if you're going to focus on 3 things, it would be the percentage of the market going under contract, because that's the job you're being hired to do. Your job is to go get them into the 6% of the market that's actually selling. And then educate them around the supply and demand, which is the active inventory. If you want to talk about days on market, obviously for most of us, they've gone up, and you can give that as a comparison. We don't see our personal and our team, our days on market go up, because it's still the expectation of, we should be getting 8 to 10 showings in the first week, which should yield an offer. And if you're priced right, that's still the market that we're in. All right, that's my spiel on Know Your Numbers.
Awesome. I will say in the comments, Susan, when you're doing this, we do it by your target market. So if you service all of an area, then you would look at the market as a macro in that area. If you're area specific, like you have a farm or a target market that you are taking market share in, then you would pull it for that. So you could do it either or. Awesome. This is going to be recorded and sent out to you too, so you can go back and rewatch. Okay, next, know your math. So it's really important. Gary keeps talking to us about, we've got to figure out our math, right? The math is changing for all of us, and this is a conversion game. I'm sure you guys have heard we were going from a speed-based market to a skill-based market, and the game that we're playing is lead conversion. So what does that look like? Listing to sold conversion. That's really important when you're goal setting, really making sure that we're realistic. I know I have a lot of people that are like, well, 90% of my listings sold this year, right? Or the last 2 years, 95% of them sold. That's just not going to be the case, right? So we've got to be realistic when we're goal planning and going, okay, in a healthy market, really around 60 to 65% of listings typically sell. Appointment met to listed conversion. So this is, I physically meet the seller to I sign the seller agreement, making sure we're realistic in that, right? Gary said in his mastermind last month that we should really all be tracking at a 50% conversion just to be safe. So that half of them are going to decide to move forward. An appointment set to met conversion. So you set the appointment to you physically meet them. This should be a healthy number. It should always be above 75%. The conversion on the set, conversation to set. This is where it gets really, really important. Okay. Because we talk about lead generation and lead follow-up in a macro sense, right? How many of you have lead generation on your calendar? And that's exactly what it says is lead generation, right? And yet who are you targeting? Who are the lead sources that you're targeting, and what buckets do they fit within? So for example, you'll see on the slide, I like to bucket things in cold, warm, and hot. And what that means to me is my hot lead source are the people in my database that I have identified are going to do business in the next 90 days. That would be a hot, right? Agent to agent referrals, that may be a hot. Referral partners such as like HomeLight, Fast Expert, Dave Ramsey, right? That may be a hot and more immediate conversion, right? And then you have your sphere and past clients. Those are always typically your hot, right? Your database is your data bank. Then we go into warm. I look at warm like lead receiving. So these are leads that are coming into your funnel, whatever funnel that may be. So if you have a farm, or if it's mega open houses, or if it's seller value ads, direct mail, whatever that is, lead receiving is warm. Lead prospecting, meaning lead generating, is cold. So that may be, you're a stranger, I don't know you, I may be knocking on your door, I may be calling you, right? Those are cold. So breaking that down and really understanding, where are your top listing lead sources? Are they cold? Are they warm? Or are they hot? Because this is how we can quantify our success. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to give you guys some numbers. If you'll all get out your calculator, we're going to do some math together. Are you okay with that? That's okay. All right. So average conversion data from dial to contact. So meaning I attempt to reach out to you pick up the phone and we have a two-way conversation. That's dial to contact. For cold leads, remember cold leads are what? Put it in the chat. What am I saying are cold? Cold call, lead prospecting. Yep, that's exactly right. PPC, strangers. Yep, you guys are on it. Okay, so that's a 12% contact rate on average. So what you can expect is for you to have one conversation, you're going to have to make about 9 calls in order for one person to pick up. Sounds about right, right? For those of you expired circle prospecting, FSBOs, PPC leads. Yeah, okay. For warm leads, lead receiving, it's a 20% pickup rate. So in order for you to have a conversation, it's probably 5. This could be warm to me also, guys, for those of you who use your database at a high level. Those are your nurtures, your watches, those people as well, right? So you can. Hots are about a 35% conversion rate. So 1 in 3 are going to answer, right? Which is probably realistic for a lot of you that are getting, again, the warmer, the referrals, your sphere, past client, the hots in your database, right? 1 in 3 are going to pick up. Okay. So when they pick up, what are the conversions on average to set an appointment? Because that's the game we're playing, right? Is we're playing the game of how do I connect with this person such that I have the ability to convert them. So for cold leads, it's around a 2.5% conversion rate. So to set one appointment, how many conversations are you going to have on average? $40. So just take 1 divided by 2.5%, you're going to get 40. That's exactly right. Now, of the 40 conversations, I always use the rule of thumb that 30% of the people that you're talking to, is really your opportunity, right? You're going to have 70% of people that are, you're not going to, again, people won't pick up the phone. They're not interested. It's trash. It's the wrong information, right? You're really going for the 30%. And that looks like typically is you've got around 25 to 30% of people who you're going to add to your database in the follow-up bucket. For warm leads, we see a higher conversion at 5%. Because again, these are a lot of lead receiving nurtures, right? We're moving them down the funnel. And so 5% is what we see. So at a 5% for you to set one appointment, how many conversations would you on average have to have? Bingo, Robert, 20. And then for hot leads, it's around 7%. So for one appointment to be set from a hot lead or a referral received, how many conversations would you need to have? At 7%. Yep, 14. Around 14 to 15. So when you know the numbers and you know what these look like, I always say just in order to win the lead conversion game, you've got to know your math. So for some of you, you may not know your math because you're not tracking it. So me giving you some of these baselines can give you some insight on what's the level of effort and activity that I need to put in to get the result that I intend to get, right? So if you know your lead sources and you know, okay, I'm majority of them are cold or majority of them are hot, then it can help you by time blocking, by knowing how many conversations that it's really going to take. And in this market, it is a numbers game, right? We've got to have the conversations in order to yield the result. The average call length that I'm finding right now is about 6 minutes. So for those of you who are math wizards that like to do that, if you take the conversations and you times it by 6 and divide it by 60, that'll give you your specific time block. So for me, when I'm working with people, the first thing that I do is I identify their lead sources. We assess to them if it's cold, warm, or hot. We do this math based on that, and we restructure their lead generation calendar to actually look like 1 hour expired, FSBOs, canceled. And that's what's on the calendar. The next hour, open house follow-ups, whatever it is, right? So it's source specific. And how do you think that that will help you going into this market on clarity of getting into action with finding sellers? Put it in the chat. Yeah, Eve. Setting your schedule up for success. Yep, cast a wider net. You're just clear. You know, people, I'm sure that you guys have heard this. I know I have had this same thought of circle prospecting doesn't work. This is, you know, no one picks up the phone, this, right? But the reality is if you do the math on how to get one appointment from circle prospecting, it actually is 334 attempts. How many of us are making 334 attempts, right? Of course it's not working because the math doesn't make sense. You're not putting the effort in order for you to get the result. And then that's how you can get out of that story and debunk that and go, okay, well, what if I made the 334 attempts this week and tested this and found out what happened? How many nurtures, how many database ads, right? How many people am I moving forward in my pipeline? Awesome. Any questions around this? Okay. All right, so then it goes into restructuring your calendar. Does your current calendar support your math? So when you look at this and you look at these conversions based on the lead source, this is, if you take one thing from this call, I would highly, highly suggest that this is what you do. I know it's not the most exciting thing or the most fun thing to do, especially for those of you who are high Ds like me. And yet it's going to be the most impactful thing on your business, is restructuring your calendar, because you guys, there are sellers out there. Sellers are always going to sell, right? It's just the effort that we're putting in to find the seller. Jordan, yes, you want to ask your question in the chat or go off mute? Either one.
Thank you. Yes, I'll just unmute. So obviously it sounds like hot leads, having that 35% dial to contact ratio and then a 7% to appointment set. It seems so obvious to say, gosh, well, we should spend all our time on that. It seems like in my business anyway, hot leads are fewer and farther to come by, right? There's plenty more people in the cold category. So I'm curious for you or the agents on your team, are you spending different amounts of time on hot, cold, and warm with this knowledge in mind, but you're still hitting all three theoretically, right?
If you have them, yes, Jordan, that's a great point. So for some of you, so like when I first got started in real estate, right, I didn't have any hot leads, just to be really transparent. Like, yes, you have your sphere and your past clients and everything, but the trust level of them, like, oh, you just got your real estate license, right, maybe wasn't quite there. So I had to earn the right to build a hot lead database, meaning I had to start with a cold to get to the warm. And if you think about it, for a lot of you who are really diving into sellers or really wanting to build a mega listing agent business, what I would challenge you guys to look at is it from the earn the right status is you start out in lead generation, right? We all start out lead generating. Fair? And then we lead generate consistently and consecutively. So now we have leads, right? So our lead generation really comes into the lead follow-up game. So you kind of earn the right. So I call that earning the right from your buckets. And yet you still have to have a healthy amount of cold, not a huge amount, a healthy amount of, if you just stop prospecting altogether. I'm sure there are people on this call where maybe you got in the business prospecting and you've hit a ceiling in your business. And it's because you stopped doing what made you successful to begin with, right? Because you got the business and that's what happened. So we go through cycles. So I always just challenge people on, when you know your appointment numbers and you know your lead sources, you may look at it and go, I don't have a choice in yet to go for cold. However, what I would challenge a lot of you, I know I am biased to FSBOs and expireds and canceled and circle, because that's how, we grew our business and I just loved that. And yet there are so many options. It doesn't have to be that for you. There are tons of other cold sources, and that's where you can dive into what that looks like. And I always just reference the MREA of going marketing, prospecting. It's right there, right? Of what those options are. And then what are you actually willing to do? Does that help answer your question, Jordan?
It does. Thank you. And you know what I thought about? Our database is kind of like months worth of inventory. If you stop prospecting, how long will it take you before you run out of leads?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's where, you guys building a mega listing agent business, and again, in a shifted market, which we are in a shift, it is here. So we're a prospecting based market. That's the market that we're in. And so it's just your choice of what prospecting activity do you want to go to take your unfair share, because it's out there. Awesome. We'll go to the next slide, which is, okay, when you have the business, right? So we're going in order, what market you're in, your numbers, so you know what to communicate to sellers, your math, you follow your time blocks, and you lead generate and you get appointments, right? So what is most important coming prepared in front of a seller when it comes to signing the agreement? So there are 4 things that are really important. Number 1 is that you fully pre-qualify. So there's a lot of, 1-step, 2-step listing. It's a 1-step. We don't do 2-step. If you do 2-step, there's a lot of competition out there, right? So most sellers are interviewing 2 to 3 agents, or if they are a colder source, they're being marketed by other agents, right? Or called by other agents. So really focusing on your pre-qualification. Is this person ready, willing, and able? How do you know? There are 2 things that I will say in the prequel. You might want to write this down. There are what I call conditions and what I call objections. A condition is a factor that impacts timelines such that this person will not make a decision. So an example of that is, my son is graduating high school this year. We're going to wait until he graduates and then move. That's a condition. I'm having some health problems. I need to figure that out, and then I'll resurface. Probate. That's a condition with timeline, right, of attorneys. And so it's a time specific. Relocating, retirement, those are conditions. Then you have what I call the objection. The objection is, I'm uncertain if right now is the best time to sell. I'm uncertain. They may not say it exactly like this, but they're saying it between the lines, right? I don't think I'm going to get what I want for it, right? I need to make this money. I don't think that's possible in this market. So commission, there are tons of objections that you guys can think of, but those are, if they're uncertain around the market or the financials behind it, that's the most important reason why you need to meet, to be clear. Because most people are looking at that information in a macro view versus a micro view, meaning the news is macro, right? Like they're hearing this on a soundboard of what's happening, but what does that actually mean to them? Because that's not always the same thing. The pre-list process. How are you wowing the client before you even walk in the door? That's really important. Differentiating yourself, because again, look at how many realtors there are out there. We are oversaturated. So there's going to be a lot of competition. There already is a lot of competition, and there are less sales, and there are going to be even fewer sales. And we have the most amount of agents that we've ever had. So how are you setting yourself apart? Prep work, pulling the comps, making sure you understand the area and what their competition is, because the area doesn't always equal the competition, right? Like their house may not always be the same as their neighbor's house. Is that fair? And yet an area, they may talk about their neighbor's house and that didn't come up in your comps, or they're talking about a house that was similar to theirs that they saw on Zillow and that didn't come up in the neighborhood search. So doing the prep work. And then the most important piece of this is practice. We would practice every single day. Our agents would script their appointments for that day. That is so, so, so important. Review the prequel, review the numbers. What's the one thing that would stop this person from signing with you that day? And practice that, role play that, role play it with whoever, right? If you're on a team, or if you're not on a team and you're maybe in a market center productivity program, or maybe you have a friend that's an agent, or maybe a spouse or a friend or anyone, right? Everyone wants to see the people close to them win. So make sure that you're practicing your appointments that day, so it's fresh in your mind and you're showing up with your game face.
All right, we ready for the next slide?
Yep.
Sweet. Okay, price it right. Show them the facts, ask them first, educate, validate, set clear expectations. Show them the facts. To me, you're always going to hear Emily and I say facts trump feelings. I feel, because when we pre-qual someone, right, we go through LTP Mama, location, timeline, price, motivation, you get it. But one of the things that when we ask on price, we say, what do you think top dollar is for your house at this time or in this market? And whether they tell you up front or it takes them a couple times, so often I hear well, I feel like we should be able to get. So with the facts trump feelings, just show them the numbers, right? I would always take my laptop to the listing appointment. And when we go through pricing, there was never a point where I don't think we should ever go through a market analysis before understanding where they are in their perspective on price, because they could be incredibly off. So showing them the facts to me is just showing them the numbers, right? Showing them how you pull the market analysis, which is, okay, if we're pulling, we do a macro first. We do the entire area. We look at it from a buyer's perspective first, meaning how many houses are up for sale, how many are pending, and then we slowly bring it in, and then we identify at least 3 solds if there's a couple of pendings, and then we look at the actives. And more than anything right now, we're looking at the actives. Does anyone know why? When you're in front of a seller, helping them determine top dollar for their house, what's the magic in looking at actives? It's the competition. What else is it? What is that? Whoever the seller is, what are they not doing? Like whoever the active competition is that's already on the market, what's not happening for them? That's right, Lauren. They're not selling. And unless they're in their first week on the market, they're priced too high. So that's right. I just want to start with the CMA. When you look at the current market analysis, you're pulling actives, pendings, and solds. But right now the focus is more around helping people pricing it right. And if there's active inventory that's really similar to theirs, then we're going to want to price it at least 5 to 7% below what's already on the market that the market's proven is not selling. So showing them the facts, we already went over the market numbers, asking them first. I think what we mean by that, guys, is just make sure you're clear on what they think top dollar is. Educate or validate. You're looking, and we do this in the pre-qual on the phone before we're setting the appointment. And then when I get to the appointment, even because a lot of times our appointments are within a day or two of setting the appointment. And even in that short time frame, they're having conversations with neighbors, with other people like, oh, we're about to sell our house. And new information can change someone's perspective. So at some point, even if it's only the next day, they may have received information that changed their perspective on what they can get. So when you walk through the door, you're looking at the house, ask them, so remind me, or tell me again, what do you guys think top dollar is for your house in today's market? Or if you got the answer from the husband, ask the wife, such that you know before you go into the market analysis, you're either, it's what the slide says, you're either validating, right? Because you can go through your value proposition and everything else. And if they say, let's say, I think I can get 500, and you've spent an hour on that market analysis and you know darn well, like you could have taken it at 550 and you would have felt kind of uneasy, but you absolutely can sell it at 500. Great. You're in alignment. You can just ask them, hey guys, I spent over an hour diving into all the details. Do you want to review it? Because my conclusion is yes, I would be setting you up for success in the market if we go live at 500, right? You're just validating. But if they're off, you're going to have to do some heavy lifting and educating. And the reason I say bring your laptop is because people want to see the visual and they want the story behind the house. So unless they've actually, and ask them before you go through as you're going through the analysis, hey guys, have you seen this house? Right? Because it makes a difference if they've actually walked through and that's one of their best friends or if they haven't. So the last piece to this is setting clear expectations. And I want you guys to write this down because it does not change market to market. I've been doing this for 15 years. For the last 10 years, I've only worked with sellers, and I would go on well over 100 listing appointments a year, and it just doesn't change in any of our markets. So when we go live, if we are priced right, we should receive at least 10 showings in the first week. And guys, I list in the luxury market as well. So maybe that ends up being like 7 to 10 showings if I'm in an uber high price point. But the reality is, if you're priced right, you're going to get enough showings and you should receive an offer in that first week to 2 weeks. And for us, it's the first week on the market. So we should receive at least 10 showings in the first week. From every 10 showings, statistically, we typically receive at least 1 offer. If we're not receiving consistent showings, like let's say that we're only receiving 2 or 3, or like we got 0, that means we're at least 8 to 12% off on price. So who can guess the majority of the price reductions that happen? What percentage are they? Assuming that the listing went on and we only got 3 showings the first week on the market. Because you guys now know, as your sellers, we're overpriced. So when we set the expectation at the listing appointment that we're 8 to 12%, if we're talking to a seller and saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you and I both know we've only had 3 showings. That's right, Kimberly. That's right. It's 10% off. The majority, the lion's share of our price reductions are all 10% because you give people 3. And these are actual statistics. It's 8, 10 to 12. So most of ours are 10. Now, if we're getting, let's say, consistent showings, 8 to 10, sometimes 15, that means the marketing is working well. What's happening is something's off. It's a funky floor plan, right? Maybe it photographed beautifully, but it's not priced aggressively enough to get pen to paper. So that's 5 to 7% off if we're getting consistent showings. And what this does, guys, is it eliminates any of this going on the market because you've delivered this phenomenal listing presentation of your value proposition, how great your numbers are, et cetera. And then you push live and you get 2 showings. And you've already committed that you're going to do at least a weekly call. What's the one question a seller has for us when we make those weekly calls and they're not getting showings? Someone put it in the chat channel for me. Or unmute. Jordan Blackaby, you're spot on. If they're not asking it to you, they're literally thinking, what the heck are you doing to sell my house? I thought you said we should get an offer in the first week, and guys, we should, irregardless of the market that we're in, if we're priced correctly. So Sylvia, it's like you said, people will come up with all sorts of things. Well, we want you to hold an open house every Saturday and Sunday, whatever it is. And so we always set expectations up front. Guys, there's 4 reasons real estate sells. Do y'all know what they are? I know a couple people on here that know what they are. All right, so if there's 4 reasons real estate sells, location's number 1. We can't change location. Condition's number 1. Let's assume that we've already addressed condition or it's in good condition. Marketing is the 3rd one. When they choose to hire us, right? When they choose to hire you, you know you have an aggressive marketing strategy. You already have the playbook that has proven successful. So that's not the issue. So the 4th one, the only thing, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that we're going to be talking about moving forward is price. Now, here's the thing. I know you're going to want to talk about our marketing plan, or you're going to want to talk about the condition of the house and what kind of money you can do to put into the house. And here's the reality. My goal is to net you top dollar. And if there was an amount of money or anything I could do extra from the marketing playbook, I absolutely would. There's no reason that I wouldn't. So we're already doing it. And I don't want you putting more money into the house because you're not going to get the return, or else I would have already recommended that they do it. So every single week, you're going to know before I even call you if we're off or on target. And guys, always ask it back to them. Say, all right, so how do you know that we're on target? Right, we get offers. How do you know that we'll need a 5 to 7% price reduction? We don't have consistent showings. And how do you know that we need an 8 to 10 or 8 to 12% price reduction? That's if we're just both off. And everything, guys, in my language is we. We are a partnership, me and the seller. We were off, right? So if we were off on pricing and the market's only responding with a couple of showings, here's what we do know. We don't want to sit on the market month after month after month and just hope for better results when we know it fades. Your first week of, and you can show a bar graph too, like their first week of showings is, if this is a bar graph, it's here. Like, let's say it's 10 showings. And the second week, it goes down to like 3 showings, and then it goes flatline, and they have one-offs. So I think the most important thing on all of this is just, it's kind of all of it, right? You start off by showing them the facts and the numbers. You ask them what they think top dollar is for their house in this market. You figure out if you're educating or validating. Validating is beautiful. I know an agent who went on a listing appointment this week on our team, and she was like, that was amazing. I asked him how much he wanted to list the house for. He told me, and it was spot on. I said, great. Don't you love this? She goes, I was in and out. Right? So she validated. Some of them we have to educate. And they set clear expectations on what they can expect from the market and what they can expect from you. And what they can expect from us or from you is a conversation to pivot quickly. Shall we have chosen the incorrect price and the market's not responding how we thought, right? Because we don't make the market. We read it and reinterpret it, and we do it together week over week. Any questions on this? Rebecca, the expectation is always within the first, so once we go live, within the first 7 days, the first week, we should have no less than 10 showings. So if we don't have, so that price reduction, and a lot of times, guys, you're going to have sellers that are hesitant to this. So whether you have a more direct approach or you soften it, like the numbers don't change, but your approach in this can. And so the answer is a week, but I tell them, guys, we're not here to force you into anything. I'm just here to educate you so that I'm empowering you to make really smart decisions. If they choose to sit on the market the second week, right? Let's say the first week was 6 showings and the second week's 2 showings and the third week's 1 showing. Like by then I've had 3 conversations with them. And as long as I've set my expectations correctly, saying, guys, if we could throw more money at something to make your house sell, we would. But the only conversation we're going to have is around a price reduction. When do you recommend calendaring the time for your seller service calls? Joseph, that's a phenomenal question. It's going to differ for everyone based on your schedule. The busier I got when I was taking several listings and I had a considerable amount of prep time, I hated setting an expectation and not following through with it, and things come up. And the same thing for my listing managers. So I have had times in my past when I've said, oh, you're going to get a call from us every Tuesday, right? Or every whatever, or we ran new listing calls here and under contracts here. Like, I think at the end of the day for our team now, it's just the seller knows that we commit to, we are always going to have a phone conversation and send you an email of the data, right? So at minimum, and these are for, because you have a ton of communication on the pre-list side, but once you go live, at minimum, they're receiving an email and a phone call. And I tell them, guys, you can push me to voicemail if you want, or you can push us to voicemail, but you can always count on us to be proactive and communicate. Guys, if you've taken expired or canceled listings, what's the biggest complaint from the agents that previously had the property listed? That's right. You guys all nailed it. It's communication. So when you just say, hey, you're going to hear from me by phone and by email, no less than once a week, just follow through with it. And if you're pricing it right, which means you're preparing and you're setting expectations, your listings should be they should be selling going under contract within a minimum of really is going under contract within the first week to 2 weeks. Would you remind me what the price drop numbers are? Yep, that's right. No showings is 8 to 12%. So when you give people 3 options, they typically choose the middle. So the majority of our price reductions are 10%. Some showings, that's right. So meaning let's say they've had 5, 6, 7, and the seller is like, well, we've had some, there's maybe 1 or 2 lined up. Say, okay, great. If you guys want to wait another week, that's totally fine. A lot of this is the temperature read of your seller and their timeline and motivation.
Yeah. And Rebecca, I'm going to answer some questions in the chat. So Rebecca, we do set the expectations of the pricing and what's to come, of what they can expect at the listing consultation, such that they already know that it's coming. So it's not a unknown, or we're having to battle them over what we are or not doing in order to sell their home because they don't want to reduce the price. So that is at the listing consultation. Cami asked, I've lost listings to other agents that promised that they could get a price that I know that they can't get. So how do you prevent them? Because they're overpricing them. Cami, what I would say is this is where it's really important that you all are bringing your iPads or computers to the appointment and physically showing them the facts. And my favorite thing to ask people when they say that, because it happens, is just to say, well, gosh, Alexis, I appreciate that, this other agent told you that. I'm just confused on what data that we're looking at. I mean, you and I just went through it. So what data did you all go over? Most agents don't bring their computers or show them the facts. That's just the reality, right? They print out a CMA. They give them a copy of a CMA. Nobody that's in real estate understands how to read a CMA or what that looks like, right? That they're printed. It just looks, to me as a high D, I'm like, oh, that's the last thing I want to look at. It's a bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet. And so that's where that comes into play with people, is they don't actually understand what it is they're looking at. So they're manipulated into thinking that they can, get whatever they can get. And so that's where you show your value of you're the economist of choice, right? Gary always says, be the market expert. Like, you're showing them the facts. Like, I don't know what they're looking at. What did you guys go over? Most of the time they go, well, we didn't. And then you could go, well, now that we went over it, what do you think? And that's typically where, again, authorship is ownership, and they come to the realization.
All right, guys, it is 1:53. So give us some feedback real quick. What did you like? What did you write down? What are you excited to implement? Maybe you already knew the majority of this, but you heard Emily and I say something a little bit different and you liked our verbiage. Give us some feedback. And if you want more, we updated it, and we wrote and we facilitate the mega listing agent. And so what that is it's a 9-course program. And from Emily's background and then my background as well, honestly, guys, we teach you A through Z. We give you it's our combined script books. So the scripts we use on my team, the scripts that Emily had that she used on her team. And I want to say y'all are closing over 600 units a year. Is that correct, Emily?
Yeah, 500.
500, 600. It's still up there. And then we teach you how to manage your time, set expectations throughout the whole process, how to say things, when to say things, how to handle objections. Literally, if you can think about it, and it has anything to do with listings and sellers, we most likely go over it. All right, where do we have when that is launching and all of that data, or is that just on the QR code?
It's on the QR code, guys. We launched January 11th. So we're on Wednesdays at 1:30 Central Standard Time. We did make edits for the shifted market. So we do a deep dive. So a lot of you are asking for certain things like market tracker. What do you use? We give you copies of everything. So we give you exactly what we track. We give you a deep dive into the top 15 listing lead sources that are specific to cold, warm, hot, the specific scripts, plans, follow-up plans. We give you our pre-listing, pre-qualification process, the consultation, price reduction scripts, how to set pricing. I mean, it's how to review, like reviews, referrals, Communication, like what do I say to a seller every week when they're not selling, right? We give our marketing plan, what you say, it's all templated. So we give that all to you. So it's literally, we start from the foundation. We also go through a win the day play to kick you off. So, you know, as a agent that's focused on listings, how do you win the day? What does that look like? And so they are all recorded. So if you are like, gosh, that sounds great, and yet Wednesdays I'm not available, or 1:30 is hard for me, they are all recorded, and you have access for after the 9 weeks. You have 60 days of access to the files with workbooks, recordings, all of the sheets, and everything, all of our playbooks. So we're excited. This is one of our favorite times of the week, is to talk about sellers and how to build mega listing businesses, because you all can do it. Sometimes you just need help on the systems and understanding what to say and how to set yourself up for success. So if you have any questions about it, let us know, but you can register on the QR code right there. Any questions? We've got a couple minutes. Any questions about anything we went over today?
I had a question, and I just want to say thank you. I got a lot out of this as far as setting expectations, and also the part about educating versus validating made a big hit for me. My question is a little more nuanced. What if you need to go back? Let's say you had a listing that you had these conversations, you tried to set the boundaries of where, you know, they should price it, and you did go through price reductions, and you have now come off of market and expired, and the seller is basically given up. You know, it's a question of marketing, and they're also not helping me as an agent to put my best foot forward by it's tenant occupied, 0 repairs are being done, showings were near impossible to do because of coordinating, and I just want to help them, but sitting and doing nothing isn't really the best situation in a seller's market either. So I'm going to have to come back, share numbers, do different things to try to help. But I mean, I have my expectations of what to do my job, so I can do my job and get them the money, and they're not helping. So what would you suggest to help a seller get back on market and understand what they need to do to put their best foot forward?
Yeah, great question. I'll take this one. So what I would do is I would go through the facts of the market. Was the market moving? Were things selling that were direct competition of them? Show them the facts, and then reset expectations of, based on these factors, this is what prevented the home from selling, right? Because this, and use real life scenarios of what happened, because again, facts trump feelings. So it's not a blame game. It's, here's what I suggest. This is the play we run. We go back on the market. This is now where we're at. Based on this, the market's still strong. This is what was happening. And here are the top 3 action steps that we can take in order to get a different result next time. And that may be them partnering with you with having tenants and that stuff. So it's really just setting expectations. And the reality is if they're not willing to do that, then at that point, you can't force a property to sell, right? It does take, like Alexis said, the partnership, and yet get back in front of them, go through the data, get them in the realization of, okay, I'm the problem, without saying you're the problem, right? You're just showing them, hey, it's not the market, it's not the location, you know, and this was what was happening. This is reality. So here's what I suggest. Let's get this, and insert their motivation. You guys don't want to be landlords. You don't want to deal with this. You don't want to, you know, and so go back to their motivation and then cycle back. So that's what I would highly recommend on that.
Do you think that would still trump even the most hard-headed seller that says, I can't afford to make my payments without my tenants? Because even though they have,
it may not be the best time for them to sell.
I mean, they've got 300% in equity from when the time they purchased, but yet the ability to leave it unrented for a couple months because they've drawn on it, and now they have payments again. So I guess, yeah, maybe that's it.
Hey guys, I don't mean to cut it short, but it is 2 o'clock. So if you haven't taken a picture yet, take a picture of the QR code. We'd love to share everything that we've learned with you guys to help you move your business further faster. And hopefully we will see you. Remember, launch date is January 11th at 1:30 Central Standard. Sorry, MAPS holds us accountable to getting off at 2 for the recording. So thank you for being a MAPS client. We're super grateful to share today with you guys. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.